The bus door hissed open and Staff Sergeant Terrell Hayes stepped down onto familiar concrete. The September air hit him differently than it used to. Maybe it was him who had changed. 18 months away will do that to a man. 18 months of desert sand, of watching your back every second, of missing home so bad it physically hurt. He adjusted the straps of his backpack and looked around. Richmond, his city, the place where he took his first steps, rode his first bike, got his first black eye defending his little sister from bullies. But something felt off. The buildings looked more tired. The faces on the street seemed harder. Or maybe he was just seeing things through different eyes now. Terrell wore a simple gray hoodie and jeans. No uniform today. He wanted to blend in, to feel normal for a few weeks. His grandmother had been counting down the days until his leave. She'd probably been cooking since yesterday, filling that little house with the smell of cornbread and collard greens and her famous peach cobbler. The thought made him smile for the first time in hours. He started walking toward Oakwood, the neighborhood where he grew up. It was a 20-minute walk from the bus station, and he could have called for a ride, but he wanted to stretch his legs, wanted to feel the ground beneath his feet without worrying about what might be buried underneath. That was one thing about being back home. The sidewalk was just a sidewalk. Nothing hidden. Nothing waiting to explode. The park came into view, the same park where he'd spent countless summer afternoons. The basketball court where he learned that he was better at defense than offense. The swing set where he had his first real conversation with the girl who became his high school sweetheart. The bench where his grandfather sat every Sunday afternoon, feeding pigeons and telling stories about the old days. But today, the park felt different too. Terrell slowed his pace as he passed the basketball court. A group of young guys were there, not playing, just standing around. 6 of them, maybe 7. They all wore dark blue bandanas or had them hanging from their pockets. Their eyes locked onto him the moment he entered their line of sight. Terrell kept his face neutral and kept walking. Don't make eye contact too long, don't look scared, don't look challenging, just walk like you belong here. Because he did belong here. This was his neighborhood first. Yo, where you headed? One of them called out. Terrell didn't respond. He'd learned in the military when to engage and when to keep moving. This was a keep moving moment. I'm talking to you. The voice was closer now. Terrell could hear footsteps behind him. Multiple sets. His training kicked in automatically. He counted the steps, estimated the distance, calculated the angles. 6 people, maybe 7, approaching from behind. His heart rate stayed steady. He'd been in worse situations, much worse. But this was home. This was supposed to be safe. Man's got a nice backpack, another voice said, younger, trying to sound tough. What you got in there? Terrell stopped walking. He turned slowly, keeping his hands visible, his posture relaxed. The group had followed him out of the park. They formed a loose semicircle around him, blocking the sidewalk. The leader was obvious. He stood in the center, a guy maybe 22 or 23, with a scar above his left eyebrow and eyes that had seen too much too soon. I don't want any trouble, Terrell said quietly. His voice was calm, level, the voice he used when things got serious overseas. Just passing through. The leader smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. Passing through? This is our block, man. You passing through, you gotta pay the toll. One of the younger ones laughed nervously. They were trying to look hard, trying to look dangerous. And they were dangerous. Terrell could see it. These weren't kids playing pretend. The one on the left had his hand near his waistband. Another one was gripping something in his jacket pocket. I grew up 3 blocks from here, Terrell said, keeping his voice steady. On Morrison Street. Been gone for a while, but this is home. Morrison Street? The leader stepped closer. That's rough territory, man. What you been doing? You got a fancy watch like that? That backpack looks expensive. You dealing? Terrell almost laughed. Dealing. If they only knew what he'd actually been doing. If they knew about the nights he couldn't sleep, the sounds that still made him flinch, the faces of friends he'd never see again. But he didn't say any of that. Look, I'm just trying to get to my grandmother's house, that's it, I don't have money to give you. I don't have anything you want. We'll decide what we want, the leader said. He nodded to two of his guys, and they moved to flank Terrell. Classic intimidation tactic. Surround the target. Make them feel small. Make them feel powerless. But Terrell had faced down armed militants who actually wanted him dead. These guys were scary, sure, but scared people are predictable. Desperate people are predictable. He'd spent 18 months reading situations, reading people staying alive by being smarter and calmer than everyone else. Just walk away, Terrell said softly. Nobody has to get hurt here. That was the wrong thing to say. The leader's eyes flashed. Nobody has to get hurt? You threatening us on our block? A woman across the street hurried her kid along, not making eye contact. An old man on a porch looked away. This was how it worked in neighborhoods like this. People survived by not seeing things, by not getting involved. Terrell understood it, but it still stung. The leader shoved him. Not hard, just enough to make a point. Empty your pockets. The backpack, too. We ain't got all day. Terrell took a slow breath. He could fight. He'd been trained by the best. Hand-to-hand combat was something he was very good at, but there were 6 of them. At least 2 had weapons, and most importantly, there were civilians around. That woman with the kid was only half a block away. The old man on the porch, a teenager walking on the other side of the street. If this turned violent, someone could get caught in the middle. Someone innocent could get hurt. That wasn't acceptable. One of the guys moved closer, and Terrell saw the knife. It was small, probably a folding knife, but a blade was a blade. The situation was escalating. He had maybe 30 seconds before this went from threats to action. Terrell reached into his pocket slowly. The gang tensed, expecting a weapon maybe, or a wallet. Instead, he pulled out his phone. The leader actually laughed. You calling the cops? Man, cops don't come to this neighborhood fast, and even if they do, we'll be gone, but you won't. I'm not calling the cops, Terrell said calmly. He unlocked his phone with his thumb and scrolled through his contacts. His dog tags had slipped out from under his hoodie during the shove, glinting in the afternoon sun. One of the younger gang members noticed. Yo, he's military. So what? The leader shot back. He still bleeds like everyone else. Still got stuff we can take. Terrell found the contact he was looking for. Lieutenant Colonel Peterson, his commanding officer. The man who'd pulled him out of a bad situation in Kandahar. The man who told every soldier in their unit, if you're in trouble, anywhere, anytime, you call. He pressed dial. The phone rang once, twice. On the 3rd ring, a familiar voice answered. Hayes, you okay? The gang was getting impatient, crowding closer. The leader reached out like he was going to snatch the phone. But something in Terrell's eyes made him pause. There was no fear there, no panic, just absolute focus. Sir, I've got a situation, Terrell said, his voice taking on a different tone. Not the casual voice he'd been using. This was his military voice. Crisp. Professional. All business. Talk to me, Colonel Peterson said immediately. Terrell could hear the change in his commander's voice too. From friendly to alert in half a second. Corner of Elm and Oakwood Avenue. 6 hostiles, possibly 7. 2 armed. 1 blade confirmed. Possible concealed on the 2nd. They're blocking my route. No immediate civilian danger but foot traffic in the area. The gang members looked at each other, confused. Terrell wasn't talking like someone scared. He was talking like someone giving a tactical report. Are you injured? Peterson asked. Negative, sir, but the situation is escalating. I'm trying to keep it contained. Stay on the line. I'm making calls. 2 minutes. The leader snatched at Terrell's hoodie. Who you talking to like that? Think you special 'cause you're in the army? I don't think I'm special, Terrell said quietly, phone still to his ear. I just know I'm not alone. You look pretty alone to me, the leader shot back. He gestured to his crew. Search him. 2 of them moved forward. Terrell didn't resist. He let them pat his pockets, take the $63 he had in his wallet. They grabbed his watch, a simple Casio his grandfather had given him before he shipped out. That one hurt, but he didn't show it. The backpack, the leader demanded. Terrell slipped it off slowly and handed it over. Inside was his military uniform, some clothes, a photo album his grandmother had made for him, and a few books. Nothing valuable to them, but everything valuable to him. One of the younger guys unzipped it and started rifling through. He pulled out the uniform and dropped it on the ground. The photo album followed. Terrell watched his memories hit the concrete and scatter in the breeze. "This is trash," the kid said. "No laptop, no iPad. What kind of soldier ain't got electronics?" "The kind who doesn't need them," Terrell said simply. Through the phone, he could hear Colonel Peterson talking to someone else in the background. Then the colonel's voice came back, clear and direct. "Help is on the way. Multiple units responding. Can you maintain for 15 minutes? "Roger that, sir. 15 minutes. Terrell could maintain for 15 minutes. He'd maintained for a lot longer in a lot worse conditions. He just needed these guys to keep talking, keep posturing, keep wasting time. As long as nobody got hurt, he could wait. The leader was in his face now. "You think you tough? You think 'cause you went overseas you better than us?" Terrell looked at him, really looked at him. Under all that aggression, under the hard exterior, he saw a kid. A kid who probably didn't have many choices. A kid who took the path that was available. The path that made sense in a neighborhood where opportunities were scarce and danger was common. "I don't think I'm better than anyone," Terrell said honestly. "I just made different choices." "Choices?" The leader laughed, but it was bitter. "Man, you don't know nothing about this life, about having to survive out here." "You're right," Terrell agreed. "I don't know your life, but I know about survival. I know about watching your friends die. I know about being scared every single day and not showing it because you can't. I know about doing things you wish you didn't have to do, because it's you or them." For just a second, something flickered in the leader's eyes. Recognition maybe, understanding. But then it was gone, replaced by the hardness again. "Save your war stories. We've all got problems." "I know you do," Terrell said softly. Through the phone, which he still held to his ear, Colonel Peterson spoke again. 12 minutes. Cavalry's coming. The gang didn't know what to do with Terrell. He wasn't scared enough. Wasn't angry enough. Just stood there calm, like he was waiting for a bus instead of being robbed. It was unnerving them, throwing off their rhythm. "Let's just go," one of the younger members said nervously. "We got his money and his watch. That's enough." But the leader wasn't ready to leave. His pride was involved now. Nah, not yet. Terrell's mind was working through scenarios. 12 minutes? A lot could happen in 12 minutes. He needed to keep things calm, keep things controlled. His eyes scanned the area automatically, noting exits, noting potential cover, noting every detail that might matter. The old man was still on his porch, but now he had his phone out. Maybe calling someone. Maybe recording. The woman with the kid had disappeared around a corner. A car drove by slowly, the driver watching but not stopping. This was someone else's problem. That's how people survived around here. But in 12 minutes, that was going to change. In 12 minutes, everything was going to change. 12 minutes felt like forever and no time at all. Terrell kept his breathing steady, his mind clear. The gang had his money, his watch, and they'd thrown his belongings on the ground like they were garbage. But he was still standing, still calm, still waiting. The leader was getting frustrated. That's what Terrell noticed first. When someone expects fear and doesn't get it, they don't know what to do next. It throws them off balance. "Why you so quiet?" the leader demanded, stepping even closer. Close enough that Terrell could smell cigarette smoke on his clothes. "You think you tough? You think I won't do something right here, right now?" Terrell met his eyes. Not challenging, not backing down. Just steady. "I think you're smarter than that." "Smart?" The leader laughed, but there was an edge to it. "Man, you don't know me." "I know you're the leader," Terrell said calmly. "Which means you think before you act. Which means you know that hurting me brings heat you don't need. Cops' attention problems. You wanted money. You got it. Smart thing is to walk away." For a split second, Terrell thought it might actually work. He saw the calculation happening behind the leader's eyes. Risk versus reward. The logical choice was right there. But then one of the younger guys spoke up. "We can't just let him walk, D. He disrespecting us, D." So that was the leader's name. Or at least what people called him. D's jaw tightened. Now it wasn't just about money. It was about reputation, about not looking weak in front of his crew. "You hear that?" D said, pulling something from his waistband. A pistol. Small, black, probably a 9mm. He didn't point it at Terrell, just held it where everyone could see. My boy thinks you're disrespecting us. Terrell's heart rate increased slightly, but his face showed nothing. He'd had guns pointed at him before, had been in situations where one wrong move meant death. This was dangerous, yes, but it wasn't the most dangerous place he'd ever been. I'm not disrespecting anyone, Terrell said quietly. His phone was still at his ear. He knew Colonel Peterson could hear everything. I'm just trying to get to my grandmother's house. That's all I want, to see my family. Your grandmother? One of the younger gang members shifted uncomfortably. Man, where's she live? Morrison Street. The blue house with the white fence, Mrs. Hayes. The kid's eyes went wide. Mrs. Hayes? With the flower garden? She make those cookies at Christmas? That's her, Terrell said. Yo, Dee, that's the old lady who gave my little sister food when my mom was in the hospital. She like the nicest person on the block. Dee's expression didn't change, but something shifted. You could be hard on strangers, on other gang members, on people from different neighborhoods. But there were rules. Unspoken rules. You didn't mess with the good people. The ones who helped. The ones who kept the neighborhood from falling apart completely. That don't change nothing, Dee said, but his voice had less conviction. He still gotta learn respect. Through the phone, barely audible, Terrell heard Colonel Peterson say, 8 minutes, 8 minutes. Terrell needed to keep this going for 8 more minutes. No violence. No escalation. Just conversation. Just time. What would you have me do? Terrell asked Dee directly. You want me to get on my knees? You want me to beg? I can do that if it makes this end peacefully. My pride isn't worth someone getting hurt. That caught Dee off guard. He expected anger, defiance, maybe fear, not this. Not someone willing to humble themselves. You'd actually do that? Dee asked suspiciously. Get on your knees? If it means nobody gets hurt, yes, Terrell said simply. I've done harder things. One of the gang members laughed nervously. Man, this dude is weird. Can we just go? But Dee was locked in now. This had become something else. A test, maybe. A way to prove something to himself or his crew. He gestured with the gun toward the ground. Then do it, kneel. Terrell looked at him for a long moment. In that moment, he made a choice. Pride was nothing compared to life. His grandfather had taught him that. You can rebuild pride. You can't rebuild a grave. He started to lower himself to one knee. Both knees, Dee commanded. Terrell complied. The concrete was hard and cold beneath him. His military uniform was scattered around him on the ground. Photos of his family were mixed with dirt and leaves, and he was on his knees in his own neighborhood in front of people who were young enough to be in high school. But he was alive, and in 8 minutes, maybe less now, everything would change. Look at that, Dee said to his crew. Soldier boy ain't so tough after all. Through the phone, Terrell heard vehicles, close. Colonel Peterson's voice was sharp. 5 minutes. Stay calm, but then something else happened. Something Terrell hadn't expected. The old man from the porch walked over, slowly using a cane but determined. He was maybe 75, with white hair and glasses that caught the afternoon light. That's enough, the old man said firmly. Dee turned, surprised. Mr. Jackson? This ain't your business. I'm making it my business, Mr. Jackson said. His voice was shaky but strong. That boy is Mrs. Hayes' grandson. He been serving our country. And you got him on his knees like a dog. That ain't right. Go back to your porch, old man, one of the gang members said, but there was no real threat in it. Just words. I knew your grandmother, Mr. Jackson said, looking directly at Dee. She'd be ashamed of this. You know she would, Dee's face hardened. Don't talk about my grandmother. Then don't act in ways that would shame her memory, Mr. Jackson shot back. He looked down at Terrell. You can stand up, son. These boys are done here. It was a bold move. A risky move. One old man against 6 young ones. But there was something about Mr. Jackson's presence that changed the energy. Maybe it was respect for elders. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was just the absurdity of the situation finally hitting them. Terrell stayed on his knees. It's okay, Mr. Jackson, I'm fine. You're not fine. You're on the ground. Stand up. Before Terrell could respond, he heard it. The sound of multiple vehicles approaching fast. Not sirens, just engines. Powerful engines. Getting closer, Dee heard it too. His head snapped toward the street. What's that? That's my ride, Terrell said quietly. He stood up slowly, brushing dirt from his knees. His phone was still in his hand. Colonel, how close are you? Look up, Peterson's voice said through the speaker. 3 cars turned onto Elm Street. A Ford pickup truck, a black SUV, and a Honda sedan. They didn't screech to a stop like in movies. They just pulled up calmly, smoothly, and parked. Doors opened. The first person out was a woman, maybe 30 years old, with short hair and a Marine Corps tattoo visible on her arm. Then a big guy, easily 6'4", wearing a football jersey. Then another man, then another, then two more from the second vehicle, 7 people in total. All moving with purpose, all walking straight toward the corner where Terrell stood. And Dee's gang suddenly realized these weren't random people. These were soldiers. You could tell by the way they moved, the way they carried themselves, the way they positioned themselves without seeming to think about it. The woman reached Terrell first. Captain Rivera. Terrell had served under her in Afghanistan. She was tough as nails and had a reputation for never leaving anyone behind. "You good, Hayes?" she asked, her eyes scanning him for injuries. "I'm good, ma'am." She looked at Dee and his gang. Her expression was neutral, but there was steel underneath. "Gentlemen, I think there's been a misunderstanding here." More vehicles were arriving. The black SUV had 4 more people. The Honda had 3. Within 2 minutes, there were 14 military personnel standing on that corner. None of them said anything threatening. None of them reached for weapons or made aggressive moves. They just stood there, present, united, unmovable. Dee's gun was still in his hand, but suddenly it seemed very small. His crew was looking at him, waiting for direction. But what direction was there? They were surrounded by people who'd trained for combat, who'd faced actual enemies, who'd seen real war. This wasn't a fight they could win. Everyone knew it. Terrell picked up his uniform from the ground, dusted it off gently, started gathering his photos. Captain Rivera knelt down to help him. So did Sergeant Major Thompson, a giant of a man who'd carried wounded soldiers through enemy fire. "That your grandma?" Thompson asked, picking up a photo of an elderly woman with a warm smile. "Yes, sir. She looks like a sweet lady. Let's make sure you get to see her." Dee was still standing there, frozen. His crew was already backing away slowly. The gun disappeared back into his waistband. Whatever had started on this corner was ending. Not with violence, not with police, but with something he hadn't expected. The silence on that corner was thick. You could almost touch it. 14 soldiers stood in a loose formation around Terrell. Not aggressive, not threatening, just there. Present. Solid. Like a wall that had suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Dee's hand twitched near his waistband where he'd tucked the gun, but he didn't reach for it. Couldn't reach for it, not now. Not with this many witnesses, this many people who clearly knew what they were doing. Captain Rivera stepped forward. She was smaller than most of the men around her, but somehow she seemed to take up more space. That's what command presence looked like. Terrell had seen it 100 times. "Let me introduce myself," she said, her voice calm and professional. "I'm Captain Angela Rivera, United States Army. This man you've been harassing is Staff Sergeant Terrell Hayes. He served 3 tours overseas. Saved 5 lives in Kandahar, including my brother's." She let that sink in for a moment, then continued. "Now I understand there's been some sort of disagreement here, so let's talk about it. Like adults," Dee finally found his voice. "This ain't your business. This is neighborhood stuff." "It became my business the moment you touched one of my soldiers," Rivera said. Her tone hadn't changed, but there was steel underneath. "See, we have this rule in the military. We take care of our own, always, no exceptions." One of Dee's crew members was already walking away. Then another. They weren't running, just quietly removing themselves from the situation. The numbers were shifting. What had been 6 against 1 was now 4 against 14. The math didn't work anymore. "So here's what I'm curious about," Rivera continued, taking another step forward. "What did Sergeant Hayes do that warranted this kind of reception? Did he threaten you? Did he disrespect you? Did he start trouble?" Dee didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because they all knew the truth. Terrell hadn't done anything except walk through his own neighborhood. Sergeant Major Thompson spoke up. His voice was deep like rolling thunder. "I grew up 3 blocks from here. Morrison Street, same as Hayes. I know how it is. I know about territories and respect and all that. But there's a difference between protecting your block and targeting innocent people. We didn't know he was military," one of the younger gang members said quietly. "Would it have mattered?" Thompson asked. "Should it have mattered? He's a human being either way." The kid looked down at his shoes. No answer. Mr. Jackson was still standing there, leaning on his cane. "These boys got a lot to learn about respect," he said to Rivera. Real respect, not this fake tough guy nonsense. Rivera nodded. I can see that. She looked at Dee. What's your name? Why you need to know? Because I prefer to talk to people, not at them. I'm Angela. You are? Dee hesitated. Giving his name felt like giving up something. But surrounded by all these people, what choice did he have? Devin, Rivera repeated. Okay, Devin, let me tell you a story. When I was 19, I was angry at the world. Came from a neighborhood a lot like this one. My brother was in a gang. My father was gone. My mother worked 3 jobs and still couldn't keep the lights on. I was heading down a bad path. Devin's eyes flickered with something. Recognition, maybe. Or just surprised that this military captain was talking to him like a person. I had a choice to make, Rivera continued. Keep going the way I was going or try something different. A recruiter came to my school. I almost didn't talk to him. Thought the military was for other people. People who had their lives together. Not for angry girls from the projects. She paused, looking around at all the soldiers gathered there. But I talked to him anyway. And he told me something I never forgot. He said the military doesn't want perfect people. It wants people willing to become better, willing to work hard, willing to be part of something bigger than themselves. That's a nice story, Devin said, but his voice had less edge now. But it don't change what happened here. You're right, Rivera agreed. It doesn't. You robbed a soldier. You threatened him with a weapon. You humiliated him in front of his own neighborhood. Those are facts. Devin's jaw tightened. So what, you gonna call the cops?
Have me arrested?
Rivera looked at Terrell. That's not my call. It's his. He's the one you wronged. All eyes turned to Terrell. He'd been quiet since the unit arrived, letting Rivera handle it. But now the decision was his. Press charges or let it go. Get justice or move on. Terrell looked at Devin, really looked at him, and he saw himself at 18, angry and lost, making bad choices because they seemed like the only choices. He saw the kids from his old block who didn't make it, who ended up in prison or worse. He saw potential being wasted. I want my watch back, Terrell said finally. It was my grandfather's. Everything else, keep it. The money's yours, but the watch matters. Devin reached into his pocket slowly and pulled out the Casio. It was scratched and old, probably worth $30 at most, but the way Terrell took it, the way he held it, you could tell it was priceless. Thank you, Terrell said. That's it? Devin asked, confused. You not pressing charges? What good would that do? Terrell asked. You'd go to jail, come out angrier, and nothing would change. Or you could take this as a second chance. Your choice. Rivera pulled something from her pocket. A business card. She held it out to Devin. This has my contact information and the number for the local recruitment office. I'm not saying you have to join the military, but if you want to talk about options, about a different path, call me. Devin stared at the card like it was a foreign object. Why would you help me? After what I did? Because someone helped me once, Rivera said simply. And because I think you're smarter than you're acting right now. You want to be a leader? Real leaders don't have to hurt people to prove themselves. Real leaders build people up. Thompson stepped forward too. I run a youth center on Morrison Street. We teach boxing, help kids with homework, provide meals. We can always use volunteers, people who know the streets and can talk to kids heading down the wrong path. You interested? Devin looked overwhelmed. 10 minutes ago, he'd had a gun on a soldier. Now that same soldier's unit was offering him help. It didn't make sense. Where was the revenge? Where was the punishment? I don't understand you people, Devin said. And for the first time, he sounded young, uncertain, human. We're just people who believe in second chances, Terrell said. I've made mistakes. Everyone here has. The difference is, someone gave us opportunities to do better. Now we're passing that forward. One of the soldiers, a younger guy named Chen, spoke up. I joined the army to escape my gang. Best decision I ever made. Lost friends over it. Got called a traitor. But I'm alive, I'm making money, I'm learning skills. And I sleep at night knowing I'm not hurting innocent people. Another soldier, a woman named Rodriguez, added, My brother didn't get out. He's doing 15 years right now. Every time I visit him, he tells me he wishes someone had given him a real choice. Not just stay in the gang or be alone, but real options. Real support. Devin was looking around at all these people, all these soldiers who'd shown up for one of their own. That's what a real crew looked like. Not people who scattered when trouble came, but people who came running toward it. What if I'm not good enough? Devin asked quietly. For the military, I mean. I got a record. Did some things. Everyone's got a past, Rivera said. Question is, what are you going to do about your future? Some things might disqualify you, that's true. But there are other programs. Job Corps, trade schools, community college. The point is to find something better than this. She gestured at the corner, at the scattered photos and clothes on the ground, at the situation that had almost turned violent. This ain't living, Devon. This is just surviving, and barely that. Devon took the card, held it in his hand like it might disappear. His remaining crew members were watching him, waiting to see what he'd do. This was a moment, a choice, the kind that changes everything. I'll think about it, he said finally. That's all I'm asking, Rivera replied. Mr. Jackson cleared his throat. Mrs. Hayes is probably wondering where her grandson is. You boys should let him go home. Devon nodded, stepped aside. His crew followed his lead, creating a path. Terrell gathered the rest of his belongings. His uniform was dirty but intact. Most of the photos were recovered. Captain Rivera helped him stuff everything back into his backpack. You okay? She asked quietly. Yeah. Thanks for coming. Always, she said. That's what we do. The soldiers started heading back to their vehicles. But Thompson stayed behind for a moment. He looked at Devon and his crew. Morrison Street Youth Center, Tuesday and Thursday nights. Stop by if you want. No pressure. Just options. Then he too walked away, leaving Devon standing on that corner with a business card in his hand and a choice ahead of him. Terrell walked the final 3 blocks to his grandmother's house with an escort. Not because he needed protection anymore, but because Captain Rivera insisted. Thompson and Chen walked with him while the others headed back to base. The blue house with the white fence looked exactly the same. The flower garden his grandmother obsessed over was in full bloom. Roses, daisies, and those purple flowers whose names he could never remember. The porch swing where he'd spent countless summer evenings was still there. Slightly rusty but sturdy. Before he could knock, the door flew open. His grandmother stood there, all 5 feet 2 inches of her, wearing her favorite yellow apron with flowers on it. Her hair was completely white now, he noticed. When he'd left, it had still been mostly black. Time had passed differently for her. Terrell. She didn't wait for him to speak. Just pulled him into a hug that was surprisingly strong for someone her age. Oh, my boy, you're home. He hugged her back, careful not to squeeze too hard. She felt smaller than he remembered. More fragile. It scared him a little. Hi, Grandma. I missed you. She pulled back, holding his face in her hands, studying him like she was making sure he was real. Her eyes were wet. You look tired. And skinny. They not feeding you enough? He laughed. They feed us plenty. I'm fine. Fine? She looked at the dirt on his clothes, the scuff marks on his knees. What happened to you? You been fighting? No, ma'am, nothing like that. Just a little misunderstanding. She didn't believe him. Grandmothers never believe you when you say you're fine. But she noticed the soldier standing behind him and her expression changed. And who are these nice people? Captain Rivera stepped forward. Ma'am, I'm Captain Rivera. I served with your grandson overseas. We just wanted to make sure he got home safely. Safely? His grandmother's eyes narrowed. What kind of trouble was my grandson in that he needed an escort home? The kind that's already handled, Thompson said gently. But we wanted to meet you. Terrell talked about you all the time. Your cooking, your garden, your wisdom. You raised a good man, ma'am. Her face softened. Well, you all look hungry. Come in, come in. I made enough food for an army. She paused. That's actually appropriate now, isn't it? They tried to decline politely, but you don't say no to a grandmother insisting on feeding you. Within minutes, they were all sitting in her small living room while she bustled around the kitchen, pulling out dish after dish. Fried chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens, cornbread, sweet potato pie. Ma'am, you didn't have to do all this, Rivera said. Nonsense. My grandson's home and he brought friends. This is what we do. While she prepared plates, Terrell looked around the house. Everything was familiar yet different. New photos on the walls, pictures of him in uniform, pictures his grandmother had gotten from somewhere, maybe his mother showing different stages of his deployment. There was even a small American flag in a frame on the mantel. She's proud of you, Chen said quietly, noticing where Terrell was looking. My grandmother has the same setup. Flag photos, everything. Does she worry? Terrell asked. Every single day. But she's proud too. Both things can be true. His grandmother came back with plates piled high. They ate and talked, and slowly the tension from the street corner faded. This was normal. This was home. This was what Terrell had been dreaming about for 18 months. After dinner, while his grandmother was packing leftovers for everyone to take, Thompson's phone rang. He stepped onto the porch to take the call. When he came back in, his expression was serious. "That was Devin," he said to the room. "The kid from earlier. He wants to come by the youth center tonight. Says he has questions." Rivera raised her eyebrows. "Tonight? That was fast." "Sometimes people surprise you," Thompson replied. He looked at Terrell. "He specifically asked if you'd be there. Said he wants to apologize properly." Terrell's grandmother had been listening from the kitchen. She came out wiping her hands on her apron. "Devin, tall boy, got a scar above his eye? You know him?" Terrell asked. "I know his grandmother. Sweet woman. She passed last year, cancer. That boy's been lost ever since. His mother's struggling, working 2 jobs. Father's not in the picture." She shook her head. "He's not a bad kid. Just making bad choices. He pulled a gun on me, Grandma." "I know. And that was wrong." "Very wrong. But wrong choices don't make wrong people. They just make people who need help finding their way back. There was wisdom in that. The kind of wisdom you only get from living 70+ years and seeing every kind of human behavior." His grandmother had always been like that. Tough when she needed to be, but always believing people could change. "Will you go?" she asked Terrell. "To the youth center?" He thought about it. Part of him just wanted to rest. To eat his grandmother's cooking and sleep in his old bed and forget the street corner ever happened. But another part of him, the part that had been shaped by military service, knew that walking away wasn't the right choice. "Yeah," he said finally. "I'll go," Thompson smiled. "Good man." 2 hours later, Terrell found himself walking into the Morrison Street Youth Center. It was an old community building that had been renovated with donated money and volunteer labor. The gym had a boxing ring, weight equipment, and basketball hoops. There was a computer lab, a library, and a kitchen that provided free meals to kids who needed them. Devin was already there, sitting on a folding chair in the corner. He looked different without his crew around him. Younger, more uncertain. When he saw Terrell walk in, he stood up quickly. "You came," Devin said, sounding surprised. "Said I would." They stood there awkwardly for a moment. Thompson had wisely disappeared into his office, giving them space. A few other kids were in the gym, shooting hoops, but they were far enough away to provide privacy. "I wanted to say I'm sorry," Devin started. "For real, not just because your people showed up. What I did was wrong." "You didn't deserve that," Terrell nodded. "Okay, that's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say?" "You apologized. I accept it. We move forward." Devin sat back down heavily. "I don't get you, man. I robbed you, put a gun on you, had you on your knees, and you're just cool with it?" Terrell pulled up another chair and sat down facing him. "I'm not cool with it, but I understand it. You saw someone you thought was weak, thought was an easy target. You were wrong, but I get why you thought it. This neighborhood, these streets, they teach you to take what you can before someone takes from you." "How'd you get out?" Devin asked. "Thompson said you grew up here." "I did. Same struggles, same pressure to join up, to be part of something. I had friends in gangs, good people who just didn't see another option." "So what made you different?" Terrell thought about that. "Honestly, my grandfather. He was a veteran, Vietnam. He used to tell me that being tough isn't about who you can hurt. It's about who you can protect, who you can help. He said real strength is choosing the harder right over the easier wrong." Devin was quiet for a moment. "Your grandfather give you that watch?" "Yeah, a week before I shipped out to basic training. He wore it through Vietnam, wanted me to have it. That's why you wanted it back. That's why I wanted it back." "I'm sorry," Devin said again, and this time his voice cracked a little. "My grandmother, she was like that, always trying to keep me straight. Then she died and I didn't care anymore. About anything." "I get that too," Terrell said softly. "Loss changes you, but you get to choose how it changes you. You can let it make you hard and angry, or you can let it remind you to be better, to honor the people we lost by being the people they believed we could be." Thompson came out of his office then, carrying boxing gloves. "You boys want to hit something? Better to hit bags than people." Devin looked at the gloves, then at Terrell. "You box?" "A little. Military taught me. I could use a sparring partner, if you're up for it." It wasn't about fighting. They both knew that. It was about channeling energy, about building respect, about finding a different way to relate to each other. Yeah, Terrell said, taking a pair of gloves. I'm up for it. They spent the next hour in the ring. Not fighting, really, just moving, learning, respecting each other's space. Thompson coached them both, teaching proper form, emphasizing control over aggression. Other kids started gathering to watch. Some of them recognized Devin. Some of them were clearly surprised to see him there, in a youth center, taking instruction from a veteran, acting like a different person than the one they knew on the streets. When they finally stopped, both breathing hard, Devin extended his hand. Terrell shook it. Thank you, Devin said, for giving me a chance. Don't waste it, Terrell replied. As they left the ring, one of the younger kids approached Devin. Couldn't have been more than 13. You really gonna change? The kid asked. Devin looked at him for a long moment. Then he looked at Terrell, at Thompson, at the youth center full of possibilities. Yeah, he said finally. I'm gonna try. 3 weeks passed. Terrell's leave was almost over, and he'd spent every day the way he'd dreamed about during those long nights overseas, sleeping in his old bed, eating his grandmother's cooking, walking streets that didn't hide danger underneath, just being home. But he'd also spent time at the youth center, not because he had to, because he wanted to, because something had started on that corner 3 weeks ago, and he wanted to see where it would lead. Devin showed up every Tuesday and Thursday. At first it was just him. Then he brought one of his crew members, then another. By the third week, 5 young men who'd been running the streets were spending their evenings learning to box, doing homework in the computer lab, and eating free meals in the kitchen. Thompson was amazed. I've been running this place for 4 years, he told Terrell one evening. I've never seen this kind of turnaround. What did you do? Nothing. Just showed them there was another option. It's more than that, Thompson insisted. You showed them respect, even when they didn't deserve it. That matters more than you know. On Terrell's last Thursday before returning to base, the youth center held a community dinner. His grandmother came, bringing enough food to feed 30 people. Captain Rivera drove down from Fort Lee. Even some of the other soldiers who'd shown up that day on Elm Street stopped by. The gym was packed. Kids, parents, elderly neighbors all gathered together. It felt like what a community should be. People from different backgrounds, different ages, different experiences, all in one room sharing a meal. Devin approached Terrell while he was helping set up tables. He looked nervous. Can I talk to you for a minute? Devin asked. Of course. They stepped outside into the cool November evening. Devin pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. He held it for a moment like he was deciding whether to actually hand it over. I met with the recruiter, Devin said finally. Captain Rivera's contact. Guy named Sergeant Phillips. Terrell waited. Let him tell it at his own pace. He was honest with me. Said my record would be a problem. The gun charge from 2 years ago. Some other stuff. He said active duty military probably wasn't going to happen. Terrell's heart sank a little. He'd hoped Devin would have a clear path forward. But, Devin continued, and a small smile appeared. He told me about Job Corps. It's this program where you learn a trade. Welding, electrical work, carpentry. You live on campus, they feed you, train you, help you get your GED if you need it. And at the end, they help you find actual jobs. That sounds good, Terrell said carefully. I applied. This is my acceptance letter. Devin held up the envelope. I start in January. 6 months of welding training. Sergeant Phillips said welders make good money. Real money? Legal money? Terrell broke into a genuine smile. Devin, that's incredible. I'm proud of you. I'm scared, Devin admitted. What if I can't do it? What if I mess up again? You probably will mess up, Terrell said honestly. Everyone does. But messing up isn't the same as failing. Failing is when you mess up and quit. You don't seem like a quitter to me. Devin looked at the envelope again. My grandmother would have been happy about this. She always said I was smart enough to do something real. I just never believed her. She was right. I know that now. Devin paused. Because of you. Because you could have had me arrested that day. Could have let your unit handle me the way we probably deserved. But you didn't. You gave me a chance. Nobody's really done that before. Someone did it for me once, Terrell said. I'm just passing it forward. They went back inside. The dinner was starting. Terrell's grandmother said grace, thanking God for family, for safety, for second chances. When she finished, everyone dug in. Terrell found himself sitting between his grandmother and Captain Rivera. Across the table, Devin was laughing with some of the younger kids, showing them pictures of the Job Corps campus on his phone. He looked different than he had 3 weeks ago. Lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted. "You did a good thing here," Rivera said quietly to Terrell. "I didn't do anything. That's all him. You planted the seed. That's something." She took a sip of sweet tea. "You ever think about staying? Doing this kind of work full-time?" Terrell looked around the room. At the kids laughing, at the parents looking relaxed for once, at Mr. Jackson from down the street, telling stories to anyone who'd listen. At his grandmother glowing with happiness sometimes, he admitted, "But I've got 2 more years on my contract. And honestly, the military's been good to me, given me skills, discipline, brothers and sisters I trust with my life." "I get that," Rivera said. "But when those 2 years are up, think about it. We need good people doing this kind of community work, veterans especially. You understand sacrifice, you understand service, and you understand these streets in a way outsiders never will." It was something to think about. A future beyond the military, beyond deployment rotations and training exercises. A future here, in his own neighborhood, making a real difference. After dinner, Thompson called everyone to attention. "I want to thank you all for coming tonight. This youth center exists because people care, because people show up, and I want to recognize someone who showed up when it really mattered." He gestured to Terrell. "Staff Sergeant Terrell Hayes is heading back to base tomorrow. He's been home on leave, and in that short time, he's made an impact that's going to last long after he's gone. Not because he's a soldier, but because he's a good man who believes in people." Everyone applauded. Terrell felt his face getting hot. He didn't like being the center of attention. "But more than that," Thompson continued, "I want to recognize someone else. Devin Carter stood up about a month ago. Devin, come up here." Devin looked surprised but walked to the front of the room. "Devin made some mistakes," Thompson said plainly. "We all know it. He knows it. But here's the thing about mistakes. They don't define you unless you let them. Devin chose not to let them. He chose to take the help that was offered, chose to change his path, and now he's heading to Job Corps in January to learn a real trade." More applause, louder this time. Devin's mother was in the back of the room crying happy tears. "Devin's going to come back here when he's done with training," Thompson announced. "He's going to teach welding classes to other young people. Show them there's a path forward. That's what community looks like. People lifting each other up." Devin looked overwhelmed. Terrell caught his eye and nodded. "You got this." Later, as people were leaving, Devin approached Terrell one more time. "I just wanted to say thank you. For real. For everything." "You don't have to keep thanking me," Terrell said. "Yeah, I do. Because you changed my life. That day on the corner I was heading somewhere bad. You know it, I know it. And you stopped it. Not with violence. Not with revenge. But with kindness I didn't deserve." "Everyone deserves kindness," Terrell said. "Everyone deserves a chance." Devin extended his hand. Terrell shook it firmly. "Stay in touch," Terrell said. "Let me know how Job Corps goes. I want to hear about it." "I will. I promise." The next morning, Terrell's grandmother drove him to the bus station. She'd been quiet during breakfast, and he knew why. This was the hard part, the goodbye. "You take care of yourself," she said, her voice shaky. "Come home safe." "I will, Grandma. I promise. And you come back here when you're done. This neighborhood needs you." "I'm thinking about it," he said honestly. She hugged him tight. "That boy Devin, he's going to make it. Because of you." "Because of us," Terrell corrected. "You fed him. Showed him what family looks like." Thompson gave him a place to grow. Captain Rivera connected him with resources. "It took all of us. That's what community means," she said. "Taking care of each other." The bus pulled up. Terrell grabbed his backpack, the same one that had been thrown on the ground 3 weeks ago. Everything was back inside. Clean now. Organized. His grandfather's watch was on his wrist. As the bus pulled away, he looked back. His grandmother was waving. Behind her, in the distance, he could see the youth center. Could imagine Devin and the others in there working on homework, learning to box, figuring out who they wanted to become. He'd come home to rest, to escape, to forget about service for a few weeks. Instead, he'd found a different kind of service, a different kind of mission. And in helping Devin find his path, he'd started to see his own future more clearly. The bus carried him back to base, back to duty, back to the life he'd chosen. But part of him stayed behind in that neighborhood, in that youth center, with those kids who were learning that they had choices, that they had value, that someone believed in them. And someday, when his contract was up, he'd come back. He'd serve in a different way, not with a uniform and a weapon, but with time and wisdom and the same belief that had been shown to him. Everyone deserves a second chance. Everyone deserves to know they matter. That's what his grandfather had taught him. That's what he'd learned all over again on a street corner in his own neighborhood, and that's what he'd carry with him, wherever life took him next.